I don't think this is going to come as much of a surprise to anybody. It's pretty much information stealers all the way down. So just to reiterate, if you've not joined one of these before, this chart is basically generated from the stuff that we see in our DFIR investigations, our MDR practice, and our monitoring of the threat landscape through some of our proprietary threat intelligence methods. We do check, as Laurie said, against open source, and indeed I think this is a pretty common trend that most organizations are seeing, certainly sort of open source malware aggregators certainly seeing this. You can see here Infostealers and StealC are still very firmly at the top there. If there was a spot zero, it'd probably be Infostealers as well. There's just so much of that going around in the last few months. You can see there Redline Stealers still up there. We've got REM+RAT, which of course has information stealing capabilities, but I really do think this highlights the really huge and significant threat that information stealers present. I mentioned earlier that the ecosystem is rapidly evolving. Some of these stealers are getting updates once or twice a month, sometimes many updates within a week. Lots of sort of competition to bypass and evade detection, but bypass defensive mechanisms in things like Chrome browser and things like that. It really is a cat and mouse game as it comes to information stealers. On the next slide, I just want to sort of remind everybody what we saw throughout the year as it came to delivery tactics, because I think this really bears out some of the pioneers in the way that these things are being delivered, some of the actors that are developing the most sort of sophisticated social engineering tactics. This is what we would sort of present at the end of 2023. It's a very kind of run-of-the-mill cracked software, free download. I think we've all seen this. We all know this is too good to be true. Yes, of course, it was getting people, but not at the sort of scales that we're seeing these days. We then saw some interesting ways of packaging information stealers into malicious or typo squatted software libraries in the PyPy package and the NPM repositories. We started to see a lot of information stealers there. As I mentioned before, many of them tend to target very popular libraries which have many hundreds of thousands of users, and they're basically relying on a typo or a misclick. But we also saw targeting of AI-related libraries, which is very, very interesting. And then we move on to ClickFix, as it's become known in the industry. We believe that this technique was actually pioneered by one of the black bastard operators that was using something very similar to this in March of last year as a phishing mechanism. It then quickly evolved into what you can see on the screen now, ClickFix. This is typically combined with SEO poisoning or malicious Google ads. And this is something that really isn't trained into users at all. It appears as a pop-up, and essentially all of this is doing is going to copy a malicious PowerShell command onto your clipboard, and then the instructions there are to simply copy and paste that into a PowerShell window and hit enter, and essentially infect yourself. Do all the hard work for the threat actor. Some of these also come with a very handy how to fix video. So that button there, just above there is some video instructions on how to do it, to really ensure that people fall for this. And my word, did people fall for this last year? This really kicked off towards the summer, and we saw huge volumes of information stealer infections using this methodology. Then as we moved towards sort of the end of September, we started to see other variations. And in this particular case, they're sort of co-opting a very familiar site to lock them up, and that's the capture. Again, they're sort of co-opting a security mechanism, something that you're used to seeing. Certainly, this isn't being trained into users. It certainly wasn't at the time. And you know, it's something that you're sort of expecting to see, that these captures often change. Do you click a picture of a traffic light? Do you have to type in a very hard to decipher set of characters? And so really it's no real stretch of the imagination that you might be asked to do something on your keyboard. In this particular case, the malicious code has already been copied to the clipboard, and again, it's just hit Windows R to open the run command, and paste in the malicious command and hit enter, and you're infected with an information stealer. Really very, very pervasive tactic, and again, it works really very well. And then towards the end of the year, there was a very significant campaign that used phishing to attack developers of Chrome plugins. These work on all Chromium-based browsers. That does include Edge as well. And what we saw here was essentially the targeting of many Chrome extensions that had, some of them had upwards of hundreds of thousands of users, 200,000 plus users. A malicious update was pushed that was essentially an information stealer to all of those users, and we believe that there's well over 2 million impacted users by this. Again, a very different way of getting your information stealers delivered to users, but again, a very, very, very effective methodology of doing that. I think one of the main things with information stealers is they're designed to be very stealthy. You won't know that you're infected. Of course, they're stealing tokens. We've mentioned this many times in our briefings. Those tokens are very, very long-lived, typically. And one of the things that led to many of the Snowflake breaches was long-lived tokens, especially for developer accounts. So again, something to look at in 2025, the year ahead, methodologies of sorting those token lives and making sure that the browser can be secured against these sorts of attacks as well.